Recording in progress, right. So as opposed to a certain other colleague of mine who forgotten he was giving a share tonight, loosely claiming that today may not have been Wednesday, rubbish. Um, I'm actually prepared two, perhaps knowing that he was forgetting to prepare one. So we're gonna do the first one. I wasn't sure where we were going to get to by the end of this week, and I need to already prepare next week. Don't ask. So please God. Can I orientate everyone? Do you mind? Let me just orientate
No,
everyone in
please do.
terms of where we are. Not it being not Yom Tov and etc. I know we've either been fasting or overeating or depriving ourselves of sleep for the last month straight, right? Let's face that. But just in terms of where we are philosophically, theologically, all of that. Yeah, let's replot that journey. So, firstly, I am pleased to tell you, in fact, delighted to tell you, after about 6+ months together, we have successfully proved that we exist. And it's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to know. For all those in doubt, we exist. All right. Great. Repeat after me. We exist and we are all
We
individuals.
exist.
We're all individuals. Okay, good. We exist. Great. We've done it. Now, where did we start our journey and where are we now? So we started from the very beginning. We had a session about defining Jewish philosophy. We then meandered towards emunah, meaning the importance and centrality of belief in God. Can you prove that? Is there kind of a deep down essential emunah that we have? More about that later. Then we launched into the topic, the sister topic of bitachon, meaning believe in God. What about trusting in God? In other words, actually actualizing that faith and expressing in action. Then we meandered towards tefillah. In other words, once you believe and trust in God, you call out to Him. Then we move towards purpose of the world. In other words, I know God is infinite. I know that He's created me and I rely on him, but what am I here for? So we did that. Then we actually took a bit of a break, but I'm going to not do this now because I'm doing it in sequential order. And we talked about purpose of the world. Okay, then what about God's supervision of the world? And so what are the patterns through which he orchestrates, directs, controls the world? We looked about miracles. We looked at, miracles, open miracles, closed miracles, hidden miracles. We looked at when that seems to go wrong, meaning, remember why bad things happen to good people?
Mhm.
Well, that we did a nice 3 weeks on that. That was, I think, one of our highlights. Then we looked at challenges in general. Challenges, tests, what are they there for? And then we are now looking at the Jewish people. I think that's everything that we've done. There are two
Mm.
major topics that we haven't covered yet, which please God we will cover. Number one is the Jewish people, which is this week and next week. I mean, Jewish people will be around for a lot longer than this week and next week. You know what I mean? And then beyond that, we've got there's a whole topic about the future. So we've dabbled in the next world. That sounds quite philosophical. We have talked about the next world, and I think we talked a little bit about reward and punishment as well. We haven't got to future stuff like Mashiach, Beis Hamikdash, all that kind of stuff, resurrection of the dead, all that kind of stuff. We haven't gone there yet. But slowly, slowly, we've got time, we've got time, we've got time. So let me do that famous thing that they did in biblical times, namely sharing their screen. Let's see if I can share this. Hopefully, nothing will occur that is untoward on my screen. Great.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, we're good with that.
Yep.
Okay, it was either going to be the Jewish nation is unique or my tax records. I'm glad that this one has come up. Okay, so we were in, if you remember last time, we started scrolling through this chapter that I plagiarized from me, which is the Jewish people. And we set out our unit aims, exploring the role of Jewish people, importance of Jewish unity. We're getting there soon. And why kind of what our uniqueness is. So just before that, to remind ourselves of three key areas I would like to touch on, whether tonight or next week. And number one, to be honest, is I'll ask it pointedly, which is the concept of a Jewish people racist? Remember that we touched on that briefly.
Oh.
I want to touch on it properly. It's funny, when I was growing up, this was a bit like a buzz question. This is kind of like, oh, one of those, oh, I like that question, intriguing. Now, I don't know if people are that interested in it, either because they don't accept the Jewish people anyway, or because they don't care about racism anyway. But be that as it may, the question I think we need to ask ourselves is it what's the word? Is it superiority? Do we go around thinking that? Are we racist? Do we feel that kind of we are the, you know what I mean? And how do we marry that with the fact that at the end of the day, we're not going to downplay the fact that God chose us, right? So you know what I mean?
How can it ever be racist if anyone who wants to, whatever their race, can become Jewish? I don't understand the question.
Good. So that is one good. That's one very fine answer, right? In other words, it's not racism means exclusivity, right? But if anyone can join, then it's not exclusive. Can anyone join? Any exceptions?
I
I didn't think so. Are there?
don't think so.
Oh, what about evil people? What about Amalek?
Hmm.
It's interesting. The Rambam says they can also join, right? But there's one group of people who can't join. Anyone know? People who can't pay their shul fees. I'm joking.
Uh,
There are one group of people who no. There might be like any certain generations remember can't marry into us of certain generations of Edomi, Ammon, Moab, Egyptians,
Right.
etc. Right? So there might have a temporary freeze or a permanent freeze on one of the on men, actually men, not women. That's a slightly different question. Okay, but good. That's one answer. Very good. Good. One answer is right. If you can join us, we're not racist. Great. Good. Okay. Anything else?
well, surely the fact that the Jewish people are made up of like a gazillion different races means they can't be racist either. Ethiopian Jews, Russian Jews, Spanish
Oh,
Jews, like
interesting. You're saying it can't be racist by you're right, but let's take the word race out of racist, which means you get
ist.
ist.
Can it
Yeah.
be ist?
Can it
Right.
be? It sounds like Yiddish, actually.
There's a
We are
difference between
we are not.
ethnicity and race,
Yes.
though.
So yeah. So
So
yeah.
Ethiopian is ethnicity,
Hmm.
race is the Judaism that you're born into, I think.
Well, I think the race might be black, but the point still
Well,
stands. You've got black people, brown
you've
people,
got
white
black Jews.
people.
Whichever, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I want to take it, it's important. I want to take this away from what's definition of race and ethnicity. Whatever it is that Judaism is, are we that? Meaning, racism would be a problem even if it doesn't pertain to race. You know what I mean? It's just another way of dressing up superiority.
Yeah,
If there'd be a cult that says anyone who drives a Previa is the chosen race, or not race meaning like fast driving,
Mm.
although I've seen many Previas driving fast, but whatever, right? They're the chosen people. We would say, well, that's a bit, supremacist-esque. You know what I mean? That. So forget
Yeah.
whether it's a color, a creed, a race, a nation,
yeah.
etc.
So I think maybe the question needs to be reframed as to, does Judaism have a superiority complex?
Good. That's exactly, yeah, very good. Excellent. We'll do that. We'll do that then. Does Judaism have a superiority complex? That's okay. It's funny. Complex is I never liked that turn of phrase, superiority and complex. Complex sounds like inferior. Whatever. Anyway, we continue. Okay, so let's start from the very beginning, which is what is the uniqueness of the Jewish people? Where do we have it? Let's kind of show it in action. And then we'll learn about our origins. I mean, it's very, very good to be learning about it this week. Actually, this primarily next week, because we're looking at the roots of the Jewish people, right? Avram, we can debate this back and forward, but Avram quite possibly is the first Jew, right? Quite possibly. Um, um, and certainly he is forming the roots of the Jewish people, irrespective of who are the first halachic Jews. What's it called? He is certainly forming the roots of the Jewish people. Yeah. And that's going to be next week through his 10 tests, his challenges, etc., things he achieves, and ultimately implants within our national DNA. So let's see. Okay, says the Kuzari. Yeah, so the Kuzari, for those who aren't familiar, is an account of probably a fictional account of, a conversation between the king of the Khazars and various people, religions. It starts off quite multi religious. but very quickly he hones in on the Jewish people, on the rabbi, the Chaver, and it's an amazing dialogue between this Khazar, King Khazars, and the rabbi about various points of Jewish philosophy. Amazing book, amazing. If you haven't, Gideon, if you learnt it, so I don't mean to pick on you, I feel like it's the kind of thing you would. Really, I've got a copy. Don't ever read it in Hebrew because it's really hard. I think it's actually a translation of Arabic.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm pretty safe on that front.
Yeah. So I've got a copy if you want to borrow it.
In
Really,
English.
like really good in English. Yeah. For you, I'll get one in French, just to give it, a certain je ne sais quoi. Okay, so
As
says
long as it's somewhere from the Northern Hemisphere, we'll be fine.
French Northern Hemisphere we can do. It's French Southern Hemisphere I struggle with.
yeah, tricky.
Amar Chaver. Har peli ma'at, says the Chaver, the rabbi, yeah? Wait a second. Ad she'avaret gdulas ha'am, until I explain the greatness of the people to you. V'daili la'aid, and here is witness for you. Shashem b'charam, that Hashem chose them, meaning the Jewish people, la'am, for a nation, a la'umah, another form of nation, mibena umas ha'olam, from the other nations. V'chol ha'inyan eloki al amonam, and he placed godliness on them, ad shegir kulam amalas adibur, until they all reached levels of dibur, which here means prophecy. In other words, God chose the Jewish people. Now, it's really important just to get this quite clear early on. Who chose whom? Yeah, I think I've got that one right.
Yep.
Yeah. Who chose whom? Did God choose us or did we choose him?
God chose us.
God chose us?
After he had he not asked every other nation of the world first, or is that a different
Yes,
element?
that's if you start with the giving of the Torah. That's true. And we're going to actually learn about what that means and why he would have done that. Right? It feels a little bit, it's true, there's a medrash like that, which we'll learn. It's a little bit like, do you know when someone performs a bris milah, you get the mohel, the mitzvah really is on the father to do it, right? To perform the bris milah, but the mohel, you get the mohel because he knows what he's doing, right? So sometimes, but what it is the father appoints the mohel as a shliach, a halachic agent to do it for him. Right. So sometimes you have this pantomime conversation where the mohel says to the father, he like hands him the knife and says, "Would you like to perform the bris milah on your child?" Right? And the father says, "No, you do it. Right? You're okay. Right? We know what the answer is going to be. Right? And it's a little bit like, if a bar mitzvah boy is about to lane, having learned it for 2 years, the rabbi gets up and says, "Would anyone else like to lane this? Would like to lane the portion?" Right? You can imagine the look on the parents of the poor bar mitzvah boy's face. Yeah. So it's a little bit like that. In others, Hashem has, we've done quite a lot for him, Lahavdil. Avraham did his 10 tests. We suffered slavery. Hashem took us out with miracles. And then Hashem says, "Hold on a second. I'd like to offer it to everyone else." So it's a little bit odd. What I mean by that is it needs proper elaboration, understanding. Okay, but it did happen. That's the Medrash says.
I mean, choosing is an interesting word because if you're talking about origins and we've got God speaking to Adam and Eve and to Noah, so like his presence was very much made known to them. By the time Abraham's came along, it seems as though he had to kind of investigate and use logic and try and work out that there was a God and what he was doing. So I don't know, like Adam and Eve for sure didn't choose. They choose God, like God spoke to them. There was nothing to choose. It was self-evident. Noah as well. But by the time we reach Abraham, sorry, it seems as though he had to investigate the world and try and work out that there can't be a sun in charge of a moon, in charge of a stars or whatever it was to work out God was there.
Yeah, 100%. And you actually triggered me. I forgot about that. Free will is the other unit that we did at length, and I forgot to mention it earlier. You're right. You can only choose where choice is meaningful. In other words, if it's clear, I don't choose that there's a table here. You have to believe me. Yeah, that just is. It's here irrespective of my choice. I can't really choose it. Right? You're right. In a world of clarity, it's very hard to choose God. It's a fair point. It's a fair point. Didn't stop some people turning their back on God, but it's a fair point. Just by the way, I omitted quite a really nice source in reference to the God offering the Torah to the nations of the world. A commentary called the Chasam Sofer if I quoted this earlier, lived around 250 years ago in Hungary, and in fact has a really interesting burial place. You should have a look on Google. It's in where is it? Not Budapest, but not far from Budapest. I've forgotten now. Worse. Anyway, be that as it may. So he said that the future converts of other nations were the ones who, within any given nation that turned down the Torah, individually said yes. I mean by that, in other words, there had to have been some form of referendum, right? Let's say God came to I don't know, name me a nation, the French, yeah, and said, "Would you like the Torah?" Yeah, and one by one they said no, or whatever, right, whatever they said. Yeah, and there must have been some people in with the French referendum who said oui. He said, "Yeah, I would like it," right? But they were outvoted. Kanara, right? So Carsten Sober says the converts of future generations were the descendants of, or had the same soul of the people who said yes. Isn't that cool?
Okay.
Yeah, it's quite cool. And it'd be that as it may. So yes, you're right. You're right. That there is an element, Gideon, of us choosing God. Now the issue is, if we solely chose God, I mean, without him choosing us, then the risk is we can unchoose God. Right? I mean, I don't know if we referenced this in free will. I think we did. It's this subtle, interesting thing between luxury and necessity of like free will and reality, whereby if something is subject to choice, that means de facto it is luxury. It can't be necessary for living if I can choose it. In other words, I don't choose to breathe. I don't choose to blink, actually, to be honest. I don't choose that my air circulates around my body, because if I could choose it, I could unchoose it, and that means I could live without it. That means life, right? That's why Maharal explains, we have this tradition that also before we accepted the Torah, before we received the Torah, Hashem plonked this mountain on top of our heads. Kafa alem har kegigis, the Medrash says, and said, if you accept the Torah, great. If not, you're buried. To which everyone asks, that's very nice, but we've already said Na'aseh v'nishma. We already accepted the Torah. So what do you want from us, God? Why force us if we've already agreed? Right, to which the Maharal says, to show the Jewish people that Torah is beyond choice. That he never did to the other nations, by the way. Right? That's a powerful point. But again, if we were the only ones who chose God, then the issue is we can unchoose him. That's bad. If he chooses us, then that relationship is never ending and unbreakable. So that's why this is quite an important point. But you're right, Gideon. Ultimately, it's got to be some form of, and I say this carefully, two-way relationship. Right? Meaning there's got to be a relationship whereby Hashem, what's the word? Hashem chooses us, or if you like, feels us deserving is probably better. And then we also have to choose. You can't, Hashem doesn't, or if you like, so to speak, can't, it doesn't help for us, compel. It can't just say, right, that's it, you're ours, and you're mine, and without any given opportunity for us to make our choice as well. Yeah, and we'll find this actually as we go along. There are various in that relationship with God where Hashem does something and we do something, and there's almost like a reflection, or if you like, a choreographed mirror image, which we'll see. Okay, let's have a look at the first iteration of that, which is the Gemara in Brachos. The relationship with Hashem, we're talking about our special relationship with God, right? It says Hashem sings the praises of the Jewish people. How so? It says the Gemara in Brachos, Amalei Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Rav Chia bar Abin, top source on the page, Hani tefillin de Mari Alma, maksiv behu. The tefillin that Hashem wears, again, probably not literal, but the tefillin that Hashem wears, what is written in that tefillin? Yeah, what is written in that tefillin? Amar lei mika amcha Yisrael kai echad ba'aretz. What he says, who is like your nation Israel, a unique, nation in the world?
Surely it should say my nation in his tefillin.
Pardon?
Surely it's God's tefillin we're talking about, metaphorical.
Well, I mean, it shouldn't say your nation, it should say my tefillin, my nation.
Yeah.
Yeah, good question. I think it's quoting a pasuk, to be honest. Meaning he's quoting a pasuk from his Torah.
Right.
It sounds like that's that sounds like that's the one he wants, right? Now, why is that an important source? Because again, it explains that we have just like we reflect him, so to speak, he reflects us. I say that very carefully, but he reflects us again carefully because he's infinite, right? And the Meshech Chochmah takes it a level deeper. He says an amazing thing. He says that it's known that Hashem and the Jewish people are like two people in a loyal, loving relationship. Each cares for the honor of the other. Now, obviously, when the Meshech Chochmah wrote this, there's no chance he spelled honor without a U. Just whatever, just for the sake of clarity. But Marty wouldn't be American, of course. But he brings from our Gemara above that the Hashem's tefillin speak about us, and our tefillin speak about Hashem. Right. Similarly, later in Parshas, one second, Matos. Yeah, Matos. Hashem tells Moshe to avenge the Jewish nation against the Midianim, but when Moshe repeats that instruction, he says, "Avenge Hashem's honor." There's many examples where basically Hashem says, "Do it for you," and we say, "Do it for Hashem." A famous once you've heard it, is this Kedushas Levi, which I think I've quoted in this show before. He says as follows: He says that we call the festival Pesach, but Hashem calls it Chag HaMatzos. Yeah, how so? Because Chag HaMatzos is the word in the Torah, and Pesach is how we colloquially refer to it, right? You don't see anyone saying, shuddering to their neighbor, "Oh, Chag HaMatzos is coming." You don't really, it doesn't flow in the same way. Must clean the house for Chag HaMatzos. No, it hasn't really caught on. Yeah, but purposefully so, because Pesach refers to what Hashem did, and therefore that's how we name the festival. Whereas Chag HaMatzos, what Hashem names the festival, is what we did. Our solitary act of showing Jewish identity was, lo and behold, expressed in eating. Namely, we ate matzahs on that night in Egypt. Okay, right. We don't have time to do this fully, but I'd like to jump into this next week, which is what are unique Jewish qualities? What are the unique Jewish qualities? There's an amazing Rav Sadia Gaon, one of the earliest sources that we will quote beyond the Gemara itself, an incredible piece, which I'd like to quickly do now and then finish next week. He says, our definition of nationhood, ethnicity if you like, is through our Torah. In other words, you cannot define Judaism or Jewish people in any other way than Torah. Forget individual observance, but the definition of the nation. Right? The whole, now and again in Israel, you've got the who is a Jew scandals, or who is a Jew debates, you can call them. Just worth looking up the history. Now and again, especially when it comes to conversions, etc., you've got the who do we accept as Jewish, who do you not accept as Jewish, but there's another one. Another bit of controversy now with certain whether or not to recognize certain conversions from America. But whatever. Nevertheless, he says that we are only a nation through the Torah. It's an amazing thing. He says, just like Hashem said that we will be everlasting, the Torah must also be everlasting. Right? What does that mean? It means just like that it's an amazing thing. Jewish people are everlasting, and therefore the Torah is. You would have thought that's the other way around. The Torah is everlasting, and so are we. He says, no, it starts with us, interestingly enough. Because we are everlasting, the Torah must be everlasting too. You see that relationship and that quality that we have to reflect the Torah, and therefore each one has to be everlasting. In fact, each one is a proof of the everlasting nature of the other. Amazing thing. Okay, next week, please God, we're going to start discussing.
Do we say? I mean, I'm a bit worried about that first thing. Where say you're a nation because of your Torah, because surely we would be happy to say people that believe different versions of the Torah, or whatever you want to call it, whether it's Reform or liberal Judaism. Certainly if they're halakhically Jewish, we wouldn't say that they're not part of the nation because they believe in a different.
No. So you can't. We'll deal with this next week. You're not out because of ideology, but you define the nation based on Torah. In other words, it's the odd thing that to be in, you have to accept it fully, to convert in, like joining a club. Once you're in the club, then you don't get kicked out by virtue of variant views. You may not represent the people properly, right? But you don't get kicked out. To be continued, please God, next week. Good to
What
see
did
everyone.
what did the rabbi who shall not be named say in response to your Wednesday?
I shall tell you. Did I stop recording or not?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No? Good, good. I'll tell you exactly what he said. He said, and I quote, I've already missed a bris and had to cancel a share. I had no idea until 5 o'clock. I put maybe set a reminder next week. Nice.
Yeah.
Lovely, Square. Thank you.
All right.
Was he doing the bris? Does that mean the dad had to do it instead?
Very good. Oh, he's brilliant. Bless him. All right, we'll speak. See you.
Take care. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.